Hi folks, welcome to the book haul for March, which I think is going to be a pretty good one. So strap in and let's get straight into it. I think we'll start with some books that have been very kindly sent to me by viewers. Let me make sure I get these right. Okay, so the first of them is Larry Niven's Protector, which was sent to me by Simon Finch. I think we'd got into an exchange of comments. He had, if I remember rightly, a critical opinion of one of my videos, and then we entered into a perfectly civil discussion, at the end of which he declared that he was going to send me a book, and he wanted to send me this one, but it wasn't on my wish list, so I hurriedly added it, and it later appeared. So Simon, thank you very, very much indeed for sending that. I do really appreciate it, and I do like Larry Niven, so I should look forward to reading that at some point. Thank you. Marvellous. And then another viewer, Alan Oppenshaw, in this case, has sent me some books. And he says, I look forward to your eventual review at some point of these books. And he didn't send me one or even two, but three books, again, from my Amazon wish list, the link for which is in the description for this video. But anyway, he sent me for Far From the Light of Heaven by Tyler Thompson, which I think, if I remember rightly, is there's a generationship involved, if I remember rightly. And he's an author that, when I spoke to Ken MacLeod in the spring last year, when I asked him for some recommendations, Thompson was somebody that he had read recently and really enjoyed. And then there's a book that I think somebody recommended to me that I added to my wish list, called All the Fiends of Hell by Adam L.G. Neville, which is actually a horror novel. And in this book, all the Red Knight of Bells heralds global catastrophe, annihilation on a biblical scale. Seeing the morning is no blessing. The handful of scattered survivors are confronted by blood-red skies and an infestation of predatory horrors that never originated on Earth, an occupying force intent on erasing the remnants of animal life from the planet. Across the deserted landscape of England, bereft of infrastructure and society, the overlooked can either hide or try to outrun the infernal hunting terrors, until a rumour emerges claiming that the sea may offer an escape. So I don't know, that sounds like Stephen King's The Mist. It sounds like The Quiet Place. It sounds like Crazy Town. And the people that I know that have read it say that it's absolutely bonkers, and I really must read it soon. So that's awesome. And then the other book that Alan very kindly sent me is Moon of a Crusted Snow, which is written by, I think, a Canadian First Nations author, whose name I'm going to mangle now, Warbgishig Rice. And he came to my attention because he had a book out last year, the name of which escapes me and probably isn't mentioned in here, which is the sequel to this one. And in this one, this is another kind of end of the world kind of tale. Things have gone to pot in North America, and those that can look after themselves and exist in the countryside do well. And I think it's set amongst a First Nations tribe. And by all accounts, it's very, very good. And I will eventually get the second one once it comes out in paperback as well. But Alan, that's really tremendously kind of you to send me not one but three books, really adding some quality reading to my shelf. So very, very much appreciated. That's wonderful. Right, what else we got here? In no particular order. I should include Stars and Bones here as well, since I bought it since the last haul, but that actually found its way onto my reading pile for February, so it's subsequently appeared in the February recap. So it's had its day in the sun. But I also bought the second one, Descendant Machines by Gareth Pratt. It's space opera. It's set in something called The Continuance. It's the second of the two. And so far there are only two, but it's a pretty expansive setting, so you could probably write some more if you wanted to. Right, let's do a little bit of list-based purchasing. Off the Broderick and DeFilippo 101 Best Novels list, gradually making pretty good progress. I think as it currently stands, I've got over 90 of the 101 that are mentioned in that book now. So I haven't read anywhere near that number, but I now possess more than 90. I think up from 30-something when I first looked at the list about 6 months ago. So I bought John C. Wright, The Golden Age, which is the first of three, I think, possibly more books in a trilogy. And this is a grand space opera, it says here, a large-scale SF adventure novel in the tradition of A. Van Vogt and Roger Zelazny, with perhaps a bit of Cordwainer Smith enriching the style. It's an astounding story of super science, a thrilling wonder story that recaptures the excitement of SF's Golden Age writers. I gather that John C. Wright has subsequently, many years after writing this book, become embroiled in some controversy with the Hugo Awards and surrounding kind of scandals would be too strong a word for it, but just taking a political position that is somewhat at odds with the general thrust of things. I, generally speaking, up to a point, do my best to separate the art from the artist. And in this case, on the basis this was written well before all of that happened, and I bought it secondhand, so he's not going to see a penny from me buying it. I'm more interested in whether the book's any good than anything else. Maybe that's a little bit head in the sand, but whatever. I bought that. This isn't on that list, but once I realised that was part of a trilogy, I went and bought the second one as well. So I do need to buy the third at some point, but this is the second in that trilogy, the Golden Age trilogy. I keep saying trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. I think I'm right in saying it's a trilogy, but I'll stick that on the screen if that's not correct. So this continues the story. Again, it's a space opera. So we'll call that one list adjacent. And then still off that 101 best novels list is In War Times by Kathleen Ann Goodman. I think I got this shipped over from the US. It took a while to arrive. It's in really nice condition. So this is set in World War II, but I think it ends up becoming a sort of tale of parallel worlds and time travel, and sounds very interesting. So I'm looking forward to reading that at some point. When my TBR pile allows for it. And then here's another one. Here's another one which wasn't issued in hardback as far as I can tell. And this is by Richard Powers, and it's Galatea 2.2. And this apparently is a cerebral thriller that's both intellectually engaging and emotionally compelling. A lively tour de force, it says. The protagonist becomes involved in an outlandish and irresistible project to train a neural net on a canonical list of great works until the machine becomes capable of passing a comprehensive exam in English literature. Through repeated tutorials, the device grows gradually more worldly until it demands to know its own name, its sex, its race, and reason for existing. Powers drills it in Chaucer, Austen, and James, a crash course that elicits a violent reconsideration of his own literary vocation, a decade-long failed relationship with a former pupil, and a growing obsession with the 22-year-old master's candidate against whom his cybernetic Helen is slated to complete. Brilliant reinvention of the Pygmalion story, Galatea 2.2 confirms Richard Powers' reputation as one of the world's most talented, thoughtful and profoundly original writers, consistently blurring the boundaries between the human and the scientific. Well, happy days. As I say, I don't think this was issued in a hardback, and it's got these sort of, it's not a dust jacket, it's kind of extra flappy bits on the cover. I'm sure extra flappy bits is not the correct technical term for it. And then I've got Night Lamp by Jack Vance, which is set in a broader universe, but I gather can be read, yes, in the Gaian Reach setting, but can be read standalone. There are several books in that setting, I believe. And much more than that, I don't know. I don't recall now. So this is a UK edition. I think I'm right in saying that it wasn't a UK hardcover. I'll put that on the screen if that's not right. Yet another list-based purchase, again from the Broderick and De Filippo 101 Best Novels list. This is The Transmigration of Souls by William Barton, which didn't have a UK edition of any kind and didn't have a hardcover edition either. So this is a US and therefore world first edition in the mass market paperback. A century ago, Fortress America recalled all citizens, expelled all foreigners, and closed its borders, severing all communication and shot down every person, plane or satellite that strayed near. Now, Fortress America is a great power, hiding in fear of an alien artifact discovered on Luna, an artifact linked to anywhere, but not anywhere in space or time. The gate leads to if-time, not space, inner space, cyberspace, infinite realities beyond realities. Ruins left 1 billion years ago and prowled by an angel of death, the space-time juggernaut, apparently. So I've not read anything by William Barton or even really heard of him before, so I'm interested in that. I think I'm right in saying that that's all of the list-based purchases in this haul video. So what else have we got? Let's do this. Actually, before we go on, I'll tell you what we should do. You might have noted the lack of charity shop finds in this haul and in other haul videos recently. And to just show that it's just not me being miserable, I've included some shelf browsing footage here from my local Oxfam bookshop, which in the past has been a happy hunting ground for me. I very rarely come away with nothing from there, but the last 2 or 3 times that's exactly what's happened. I've walked away with no science fiction at all. So just to prove that that's the case, I'll show you this brief bit of shelf footage. So you can see for yourselves. There might well be something that you fancy there, and I just didn't get it because I've already got a copy or because it was a bit tatty or whatever, and there's an awful lot of fantasy, as you'll see. If you don't fancy watching that, you can skip forward. I'll put some chapters in along the bottom there. Shelf browsing footage you wanted, shelf browsing footage you've got. The last few times I've been here, I come away with nothing or almost nothing. Partly a factor of I just have an awful lot of books already, and partly because there's just a lot of fantasy at the moment. So let's just see. I've got all those Adams books. I don't need any more anthologies. lots of Paul Anderson. Actually, that's in quite nice condition. I might get that, actually. If I haven't already got it, I need to check. Don't think I want to get any of those unless it's to sell them. I'll check. I've got about 1 million Neil Ashe books, possibly including that one, I'm not sure, but I really don't want to get any more until I've read a few. That looks like Urban Fantasy, no thank you. I've got these. I've got more than one copy of this already. I have that. And that, they're lovely, but I have them already, and I have that too. So I don't need those. Wonder Woman I don't need. I did go through a Clive Barker phase, but it was a long time ago. R. Scott Bakker. It's meant to be very good, but fancy, I believe. Yeah, nope. Nope. Have that in hardback. This Fantasy Society, I don't think I want those. Which is Assassin's Creed, no thank you. Elves, no. Fantasy. Not Fantasy. I might already have that. It's not in great condition, but for a reading copy it might be okay. Judy Canavan. Meant to be pretty good for Fantasy, but I'm not interested. I have that. I have... Do I have 2061? I might not have Odyssey 3, I'll have to check. Fantasy. I've got a copy of that already. I've got these in... I was about to say I've got them in hardback, I haven't, but I do have them all in a nice paperback. That same edition. David Eddings, I've got those. Not interested in the later ones. Don't know what that is. Fantasy. David Gemmell's all Fantasy. Meant to be pretty good. I might look them up and see if they're worth buying just to sell them. Probably not. Have Neuromancer. Terry Goodkind. Nope. That's Tahani. That's the 4th of the Earthsea books, but I already have a copy of that in hardback with the dust cover. Nope. I have that already. Fantasy. I have that. I think. I'll check, but I think I have that. Pretty sure I have that. And even if I don't, it's not a very nice copy. Nope. McCaffrey, not interested. Dervish House, I have that in hardback. Star Fraction, I have in hardback. I don't know about those or what they are, but I might have a quick look and see if they're worth getting. I have those. I've got that in hardback. I have Rite of Passage, and I've got the Mervyn Peake books. I've just bought a copy of that. It's a shame, it was a bit more expensive than that. Okay, I have that edition of The Name of the Wind, and it's fantasy anyway. Fantasy. Wahlberg, I think I have that already. I definitely have that Clifford Simak. I've read it, I have a copy of it. I have that too. Ooh, the Amtrak Wars, look at that. Don't know if I have that. Possibly it's worth getting. I'll have a look at the Conan books in case they're worth selling on. I'm running out now. I think I have Mostly Harmless, but I will check. Ready Player 2 is meant to be rubbish. I'm not interested in the Barbara Erskines. Nope. No, so that's it. That's everything. So a couple I might be interested in, and a couple I might want to get to sell on. But slim pickings. That's what it's been like for the last month or two. In fact, I think I'm right in saying that the only book in this haul that I did buy in a charity shop was this one, The Ferryman by Justin Cronin, which is a recent book. I think it was 2023 that it came out. So somebody's read this once and stuck it on a charity bookshelf, which maybe isn't terribly encouraging, but then I could say that about every book that I've bought in a charity shop. This is the same guy that wrote The Passage, and the 2 books have followed that, and by all accounts this gets a good write-up, and so I'm intrigued to read that at some point in the past. And I found this for like, I don't know, £2.50 or something in a charity shop. Can't go wrong. And this one didn't cost me anything. It's called The Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. And this is an advanced reading copy which the publisher sent to me at my request. And so I actually will need to read it at some point and do a review of it, to be fair. This is, so it's not the final livery, although the final livery is similar. It's got ARC business on the cover. So happy days. Let's do a bit of collection filling. I think it would be an exaggeration to say that I've been collecting this series, which is the Women's Press science fiction, which are in this very smart kind of grey bordered livery. Some of them are like these, mass market paperback size, and some of them are a B format, or what in the US is known as trade paperback size. But these are both A format. And I actually ordered these off the internet, I think probably from eBay. And one of them is in okay condition, I would say good, maybe bordering very good, but it's a little bit tatty, and that's The Watcher by Jane Palmer. It's a bit creased. And then the other one was advertised as very good, and I would say it probably is about right, is Josephine Saxton, Queen of the States. And I think these are really smart. I like the artwork on them. Is all very colourful against a kind of more austere grey background, and all important works. Some of them feminist, and just some of them just by female authors that were not otherwise published in the UK. And so most of them are first-time publications, and then a few of them are reprints. So that's cool. So I think there are 36, I think, of these to collect, and I've now got about 10. And then another set of books which I sort of half-heartedly went through a period of collecting, and of which there are 25 in total, are the Venture SF books from the 1980s, and they're all in this rather small, most of them anyway, are in this rather smart format, with the Eddie Jones, the sort of recycled Eddie Jones images, most of which bear zero relation to what's actually in the book. So this one is Assault on the Gods by Stephen Godin, which is number 16 in that series of 25. And these were all in one lot on eBay, and they're all in pretty nice condition, actually. They're actually quite hard to get in sort of unbuggered condition. You normally find them with broken, as you'll see, broken spines and creases and what have you. These are actually in pretty nice condition. And you've got Cobra Strike by Timothy Zahn. Well, I think I've already got Cobra. And then we've got Hammers Slammers at Any Price, which is a sequel, I think a collection of short stories. Actually, the first one was certainly a collection of short stories. I don't think this is. I think it's a novel. And then another one by Timothy Zahn, Backlash Mission. I like the way that these look. I like the aesthetic. I like the livery is smart, and they're all kind of space adventures. And they were published at a rate of, I think, if not one a month, then one every quarter for 2 or 3 years. I think it was one a month actually over a period of, I think, from 1985 to 87, something like that. I felt like I was on a bit of a roll after those four, so I sort of spanned the World of Books roulette wheel, and with mixed results. So this one, Interstellar Empire by John Brunner, is actually in really nice condition, so I was pretty happy with that. Didn't cost, I mean, I'll put the price on the screen, but it would have been somewhere between £3 and £5 probably. And that's in pretty nice condition. And then let's see, what are the nice ones? We got Philip High, Sold for a Spaceship, which is number 7. That's in pretty nice condition. And then we got Star Hunt by David Gerrold. Somebody was recommending this to me recently, so I'm quite keen to read that. And that's number 6. And these two are in slightly less good condition. You've got Cobra by Timothy Zahn. Apparently won the Hugo Award. I'm not sure if that's Timothy Zahn won the Hugo Award at some point in the past, or if this book won the Hugo Award. I'm not sure. That's number 15. And then you've got number 3, which is Hammer Slammers, which I have a different copy of in different livery, but to complete the set. But actually this one is not in great condition. It's very creased, the spine's broken, but it'll do for now. I'm probably more interested in completing the set than I am in the condition of them at the moment, up to a point. I'm getting less and less tolerant of poor condition books actually now. But anyway, that's number 3. I was having a look, I forget the name of the book exactly, but number 1 in that series is really difficult to get, and you can pay, I don't know if it's just because it's number 1 and there were or because there was a smaller print run, or both. But that one you can easily pay £30 or £40 for, which until very recently I would have said would be an amount I was just unprepared to pay for a second-hand paperback book. But that would be a lie, because I bought The Colour of Distance by Amy Thompson for exactly that amount. I think it was. I can't remember the amount. It was about £30, or maybe it was $30. I can't remember. That did include shipping. And it was described as like fine condition or near fine condition. And it mostly is, but it's got quite a lot of kind of foxing or spotting or brown kind of spots which don't clean off. They're just part of the cover now. And so I wrote to the bookseller and said, look, it's not really on. You said it was near fine and it just isn't. And so he gave me $8 back, which reduced the cost of it to something a little bit more sensible. But there wasn't a hardback edition of this. I think I'm right in saying, I think it was this was the first edition of that book, and I don't think it had a UK printing either. So I would have had to get a US edition of some kind, and they're not easy to find in this livery. Meant to be very, very, very good. Several of my regular viewers have said I ought to read this. Seth, I think in particular, if you're watching this, thank you for recommending it. I'm looking forward to it. And then we've got Gwyneth Jones' North Wind, which is the sequel to White Queen, which is actually on my TBR for March, actually. So by the time you see this, I might already have read it. We'll see. Just a picture of Gwyneth on the back. It's in the Gollancz, published in 1994. And I think there might be one more, possibly two books after this one. So I don't know. Really, I should have waited until I'd read White Queen before rushing out and buying this one, but I felt compelled for reasons to get this one. So we'll see. I'll probably see if I can restrain myself. Then I'll wait until I've read at least one of them before getting the others. But that might not be possible based on the evidence to date. I think I ordered this online. I'll put it on the screen. This is The Sudden Appearance of Hope by Claire North. And I think I now have all of her books, except the 3 recent Greek ones, which didn't particularly interest me. They're not science fiction, more like a retelling of a historical tale. But I now have all of her science fiction output anyway in hardback. And apparently this is really good as well. I've only read a couple of her books, and there are 5 or 6 now on my shelf, so I really must get around to reading them because I've liked everything that I have read. And she has a space opera coming out later this year in September, so I'm really curious to see what she does with that. Most of her, the 2 that I've read, and I believe all the others as well, are quite earthbound tales. They're kind of like normal life, but with a twist. So it'd be interesting to see what she does with a space adventure. And then I bought, slightly disappointed by the condition of this one, but it's Summer Queen, which is the sequel to Snow Queen by Joan D. Vinci. And this has a fantastic Michael Whelan artwork on the cover. This is a US edition from Warner Books. And it's, it's generally speaking, actually in okay condition. The text block is fine. The dust jacket is mostly fine. But the binding is just a little bit flaccid. It's been read, and it's just not tight anymore. So maybe I'm being excessively fussy there. It's generally speaking in really nice condition. And that came all the way across the Atlantic. I've been working hard to complete my collection of Paul Macaulay novels. And his second book is Secret Harmonies. And this is this follows on from 400 Billion Stars, and it comes before Eternal Light, which is a book I tried to read a few months back and gave up because it had too many references to the preceding books. For some reason, I got it into my head that I could have read it standalone. So that's the second of the 3. And then I've got this one here, Mind's Eye, which is a sort of science thriller rather than science fiction, I think. Mind's Eye, sort of Michael Crichton kind of level thriller, I think. Yeah, combining breathless suspense with the frighteningly plausible speculation on mind control, whose consequences are almost too horrifying to contemplate. So that is a book in absolutely fabulous condition. Very nice indeed. As was this one, which is not one that I'd really heard of before. So this is Paul Macaulay. This is more like a horror thriller, I think, than a science fiction book per se, called Players. This is in absolutely pristine condition. Maybe the text block is a little bit yellowed, which happens a lot with British editions because they're not acid-free paper. Yeah, so in this one, a teenage girl is found naked and fatally injured in a mountain forest 200 miles from her home. The mutilated corpse of a young man in the Nevada desert, his heart and eyes removed. Lovely. The post-apocalyptic world of a role-playing computer game and the murderous spree of a psychopathic killer driven by delusions and superhuman supremacy. And rookie detective Summer Ziegler pitched headlong into her first major case, but even as she tries to unpick the killer's twisted logic, he lures her into a cat-and-mouse game with spectacular climax of his own devising. So it's kind of lightly a science fiction book, but I think mostly a thriller, a police procedural crime thriller from the sound of it. I got Into Everywhere by Paul McAuley again, which is the sequel to Something Coming Through. It's in a little duology, and there's a bunch of short stories as well in the so-called Jackaroo setting. And there was no hardback edition of this book. There was of the first one, Something Coming Through, which I have an ex-library copy of, which I'm hoping to replace. This one didn't have a hardback edition, and unfortunately, I bought this sight unseen from like World of Books or something, and it's just a bit spine creased and a little bit concave on the spine, just where it's been kind of like spine broken and read aggressively, I would call it. But it'll do for now. I will at some point probably want to upgrade it. Then got a little bit of Ian MacDonald collection fillings, Aries Express. I do already have a paperback copy of this, but I wanted to upgrade it to the hardback. So this is the sequel to Desolation Road, which is his debut novel. This was written some years after, I think. I think it's in the early 2001, whereas Desolation Road was from the late 1980s, I think. But it's the same setting, taking place in the kaleidoscopic future of Ian MacDonald's highly praised Desolation Road. Aries Express is set on a terraformed Mars, where fusion-powered locomotives run along a network of rails that is the planet's circulatory system, and artificial intelligences reconfigure reality billions of times each second. It's been a few years since I read Desolation Road, but I do recall enjoying it very much, so I'm happy to have the second one in a nice hardback edition. Then we've got Christopher Priest, The Quiet Woman, which is not a book that I'm terribly familiar with. I'm not pursuing Christopher Priest's backlist in the same way that I am with Paul McAuley and Ian MacDonald and a few other British authors, but I probably should. It's just that some of his earlier books are really hard to find in hardback. I do have a few, so at some point the completist in me will take hold, and I won't be able to help myself. And ultimately, I'll part with big money for some of the more difficult to find books, like The Prestige, for example. So not one of his oldest, and certainly not one of his more recent books from 35 odd years ago. So it's kind of mid-career, let's say. I haven't yet had a negative experience reading Christopher Priest, so I'm very happy to hoover up everything that he's put out, honestly, as and when money and time allows. And then we've got This Virtual Night, which is the sequel to This Alien Shore by C.S. Friedman. I read that last month and really enjoyed it, so I've sought out the second one. And I think I'm right in saying that she's writing a third one, a little bit like Aries Express. This was written some time after the first book, This Alien Shore, but it's in the same setting. I don't know if it involves any of the same characters. No, it doesn't seem to, but the same setting. And then I have saved the most exciting book till last, arguably. Well, it's definitely last, but it's arguably exciting. And it's a broken binding edition. So I'm gonna unbox it as we speak. I'm gonna do it quickly. I'll probably put it on super fast motion, so you don't have to sit through me unwrapping it all. So that is the rather fancy third book in the, I can never remember what it's actually called. Is it Remembrance of Earth's Past? That everyone calls the Three-Body Problem Trilogy. And so this is the third and final instalment in that. So as you can see, it's rather beautiful. It's got custom artwork on the cover. It's got custom artwork on the end papers in the front and the back. It's rather pretty. And it's got sprayed edges, of course, coloured on the top and the bottom, and then pictorial on the sides. So that completes then the trilogy. And my next book in my science fiction subscription with Broken Binding, it is the Doomsday book by Connie Willis, which I recently read in my scruffy old paperback. So I've been very much looking forward to having a really nice copy of that. It's not cheap. It's about 30 quid for each book, including postage, and you sign up in advance. You can cancel at any time, but you sign up in advance, and they send you a book every 2 months. Currently, they might well upgrade that to once a month, which is what they do with the fantasy subscription. But for now, it's once every 2 months, certainly for the rest of this year. And the way that it works, I think, is in a given year, there'll be 2 trilogies, and then the rest will be standalone books. And when I say standalone, I mean standalone in that they're only issuing them as a standalone. So Doomsday book is part of the Oxford Time Travel series of 4, but they're only producing 1. And then there's another trilogy, and then there'll be another 1 or 2 single books. And then who knows? So they don't announce too far in advance what's next. Only when the final book has been issued. Do they announce what's coming next? So I don't know what's coming after Doomsday Book. So whilst it costs me a few quid, I'm adding some nice additions. You can skip a set if you want. You can do that once a year. I think you can skip a trilogy and a singleton, and then that's your lot. You're committed then, unless you cancel, to buying the rest of them that come. Anyway, broken binding, all very pretty. I feel like I'm shamelessly contributing somehow to conspicuous consumption, but they are very pretty books and they do look very nice on the shelf. So fuck it, who cares? As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye for now.